Well, there it is. Hi guys, welcome to another Warcraft 3 Reforged video. This time, courtesy of Laced TV over at his channel. He's uploaded a video. But doing a side-by-side comparison of the demons that are currently in Warcraft 3. So this is an in-game preview. So we're going to take a look. And I'll do a little bit of criticism here and there where I feel necessary. So, initially, we have zombies. And these are the ones that we are used to. You can see the diseased flies, sort of like, well, he's the diseased one, but the flies are enjoying his disease. They're just floating around, having a good time. We don't have that spell effect currently on the new ones. The difference here is I actually think I prefer the head of the new ones, even though it blends in way too much into the body. This one is very comical and silly in a way, but of course it fits the more cartoony graphics. The thing I don't like about these guys is I feel like their hands are like way too beefy. Look at these feet. His hand is literally like twice the size of his feet, if not more. I know that this whole demon infestations thing sort of causes them to, you know, grow in size in some ways, but I don't feel like it's very fitting. I feel like, again, if you're a demon, or rather specifically if you're a zombie, you would be more depraved, you would be more ripped of skin, ripped of flesh, you would be ragged bones, you would be hanging by the bone, you wouldn't be somehow stronger. So that's always a thing that's kind of confused me with like zombies and skeletons and stuff like that in the game a little bit. It's almost like they get beefier and stronger from basically essentially decaying, which doesn't make sense. This is supposed to be saffron, I believe. Not 100% sure, but I think it is. So the new dragons are actually smaller in model, at least in comparison to what we're currently looking at. We don't truly know the actual scale, but this model is more hung back to its selection scale, which could make it a little bit tricky when it comes to selecting. So if you selected this model, the selection scale would be almost perfectly around the middle of its body. So I'm not sure gameplay-wise how this is going to work. The model itself looks pretty darn nice, though. Less goofy than the originals. Okay. So there's your boy, Manaroth. That's the Manaroth I know. The new one is much brighter teal in colour, as opposed to the worn dark grey / green. So the teeth are very different. In this new model you can't see quite so clearly, but he's got very few teeth. He's actually probably got about 10 teeth in total. And he just looks a lot more derpy. The original one looks derpy, but he also looks quite terrifying. And he's got this awesome sort of beard that goes with it. And there's no beard this time. The horns aren't exactly very similar either. They're very white in this. He's actually got dark horns. Although I'm not sure if that's exactly the same in the cinematic. And the weapon itself is very large. You can see it comes out all the way over here, all the way over here. On this one, it doesn't come out anywhere near as much. The pose is slightly different, but it's not as imposing as this weapon is. Like, those are magnificently massive. There's the back. So, pretty similar. They're more elongated, the new models. I don't know if the wings are fixed yet. Obviously, work in progress, all of this. Make sure to thumbs up the video. If you're enjoying this kind of content, Warcraft 3 helps support it. So this is Archimonde. He's looking quite extravagant. The original one gets a very clear contrast across. Beautiful, toned, taut, teal body with very extravagant gold plating and red player color to just emphasize his power, and this really awesome cloak. The new model's actually gone with a very different style cloak, which I kind of like and I don't. It kind of confuses me because I feel like, where's the practicality of it? But on the other side, it does look a little bit more regal in a weird way, that he's got like 2 cloaks instead of 1. And the mantelpiece is magnificently massive. So his armor is really good. His pose is pretty good. His posture, very empowering, very wide, very spread. Just can't quite see the facial details as well as on the original. You can definitely see here he's very menacing. So here's the Tavern Pit Lord. versus another version of a Tavern Pit Lord. I actually really like this hammer. Some people have had issues with this giant gold hammer. I really like it. I like it. It's a different take. They got a very different body. So it feels pretty good, actually, in a weird way. It looks strangely molded, but I think that's just something you have to get used to. This body feels like it's slightly more natural. This one feels like it's almost stretched in some points, but still muscular nonetheless and quite powerful. But there is a little bit of awkwardness, yeah, says Neffy. This is Kil Jaeden. So the original model looking incredibly powerful and imposing, like the fists, just his... I'm like falling here in the webcam. Let's try that. I feel like I'm falling down. There you go, that covers me. So he's got like this power pose to him, glowing. The new model is very extravagant. He's got wings though, which people pointed out, and the original one doesn't actually. But this is to fit in more with World of Warcraft. I like the armor though. I think the armor's very extravagant and powerful. And he's got like a cool look. So another Tavern Pit Lord versus, I believe, Magferidon. I feel like Magferidon represents Manaroth more than Manaroth does. Apart from those wings. Those wings are actually really kind of almost too beautiful. He's going to get mocked in the Legion for those wings. Taking a look at neutral models. Okay, so these are like the Fell Ravagers. The new ones look kind of mean and nasty. Look at those horns and the tail wagging back and forth. I don't mind those so much. The legs are obviously not finished. People have pointed these out, and it is very funny if you look at the hind legs. The Fell Ravagers are more built, though, in their hind legs. So that looks more finished. I don't think those red ones are supposed to be the way they are, though. Fell Guards, definitely very cool. I actually quite like this. The original ones sort of lean back a little bit, and they have an incredibly imposing look. Giant weapon, huge spikes. You can't quite see the spikes so well on the new ones, but the posture is pretty cool as well. He's not leaning back, he's almost like leaning forward in a kind of come at me bro posture. And he looks very powerful from the back as well, so I don't mind the new ones. I think they're an interesting take. So these are more just a different model, more powerful. I think probably more upgraded one. So this is Eredar Warlock, I believe. So compared to the Kil Jaeden model, or essentially an Eredar Warlock from Warcraft 3 that you can pick up at the Mercenary. That's another one, actually. That might be the Eredar Warlock. So you either got Warlords or Warlocks. Basically the versions of the Eredar. These are demons that you can play in probably the campaign as well as in Melee, where you can pick them up from the Mercenary camp. This guy's got all sorts of face tentacles going on. The Succubi. That whip, though. The way she's holding it as well. Pretty good. They work for me. So these new models, right? It's funny. They're holding daggers. I always thought, for some reason, that the original models, her hand and her arms were the daggers. If you see what I mean. Like, they're actually part of her arm. But looking at this model, I assume that she's holding daggers now. But I've always felt like that was actually her, like the actual scythe, the sword, the weapon was actually part of her forearm. It actually was. So whether you guys think I was right or wrong, feel free to let me know in the comments section below. That throws me through a loop. She might well be holding daggers now that I look at it, but I always assumed that it was part of her arms. She was just a different version of them. Wow. I mean, wow. Can we get the Sork looking like this? Yikers. Yikers, boys. That's a definite upgrade. Sorry, that's the only part I actually went back on. I wonder why. This model's really neat. I like the sort of worn out wings as well. Like the different armor type. Oh, look at the satyr. I like the satyr. The new models have got a really cool posture. And they look very unique. So they definitely look right, to be honest. Ah, look at this one as well. It's just got different flair to it, different weapon, but just, they look really good. It's like the old models are really cool. They got their own postures, but these new ones, they definitely look like their own unique skin. You know, their own skeleton. They're not like copied from another character. At least it doesn't look like it from what I can tell. Yeah, they look great. No complaints with the satyr. I think Blizzard done a good job with them. Even the female one, which I don't think was originally female, but she looks cool and she works. These are obviously very weird, kind of ghost slash Voidwalker type characters. They'll just take some getting used to. They're obviously incredibly different to the original ones. So, it's okay. They look cool for what they are. You just kind of have to train yourself to now get used to that model. That's all it is, really. Incredibly bulky, though. They've been lifting weights non-stop. Oh, no! I'll go back in a moment just to recapture this bit. Okay. So, I like the posture of this new Infernal. It does look pretty powerful, quite commanding. He's leaning forward, a bit hunched, very muscular. The shoulders are just ridiculous, but also very commanding. It's the legs I think are just a little bit too long for me. But, you know, for a new model, it's pretty good. Like, you can always complain that it's not exactly the same as the original, and I'm typically in that boat. But if we're going to get new models, and this is how it's going to be, it looks like it sits on the battlefield quite well. That's just a standing animation. He looks quite imposing. You know what it is. It's an Infernal. It's hard to miss. It looks like it belongs there, so I can't really complain with that. But I do obviously have a very fond heart fondness, whatever you would call, for the original one. But it looks good. The new one does look good. Okay, Doomguard now. So, people complained, but he's very thick. Just needs to be a little bit wider like the Doomguard is. But you can see his shoulders are freaking massively wide. Perhaps it's the shoulder armor that really helps bring out the Doomguard look. If this guy was wearing maybe a little bit of shoulder armor on top of those massive shoulders, that would probably help fulfill the Doomguard look. He looks unique enough and different to the other demon models, face-wise particularly. And I like the mane of hair that comes back, very similar to the old original one. So the wings are massive and powerful, very imposing too, much like the original. So I've not really got too much of a problem with these new ones. They're really cool, like different take on the original, but still sort of holding similar to it. Alright, not much to say here. The original one I think looks better because you can actually see what the hell is going on with it. But there you go. The skull of Gul'dan. The old model was cool, but that new model was insane. That's insane. And of course we've got the Dark Portal, Waygate type thing. Yikes. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. There's a granary. So, looking on point for the most part. Worn down. Slightly off colour. There's no new version of this, at least in the game, because that's not right. Or they haven't found it. There's the Book of Summoning, the pedestal. I really love the way the book still glowers up and down. And it looks amazing, that book. That looks so detailed. Looks so real. I don't feel like I've seen that model before. That one on the left. Oh! Illidan! Illidan confirmed! I was going to say, what? He's inside this fell crystal. So, where does this part of the story come in? Because in Legion, Maiev captures Illidan's corpse. Basically, this is supposed to be like a tie-in. It's like a flashback from the Burning Crusade. And she encases his body in the green gem that Gul'dan then sort of like releases him from. But, yeah, I mean, I guess the campaign's going to take a slightly different turn at some point. the Outland capture. They do capture him, but they stick him in, like, a war wagon. Is that supposed to be the transport vehicle for him now, instead of... Because he looks pretty alive in there, to be honest. And the Illidan cage is the next model that you're about to see. This one. Because you can see Illidan's inside of there. I don't think I can see anything inside of this model. And there's the old versus new. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to thumbs up and have a great day.